In the management of risk, your best friend is a system. A system in driving that is commonly used is referred to as SIPDE. It stands for search, identify, predict, decide, and execute. As we're driving around, particularly in urban settings like here, there are lots of distractions. Unfortunately, some of those distractions are really relevant to you as a driver. Using the system, we would search for the distractions, for possible threats to our safety, things that might pull into the road, things that affect our driving, like a stoplight or a stop sign, things like that. So then we identify, is it relevant to us? And I find this is one of the big issues that beginning drivers struggle with, is identifying, is it relevant or not? Because beginning drivers have a tendency to think that all things are relevant, that, a limb from a tree going over the road suddenly becomes a hazard because they don't assume that, oh no, it's probably going to stay attached to that tree. And so it's real funny for me in all the experience I've had in teaching is to see and watch beginning drivers grasp what is relevant and what is not relevant. So after we identify that as a relevant problem, then we have to predict what it will do. Is it going to stay out of the way, or is it going to move into my path of travel? And this, to me, is really determined by time and space. Okay, so what you really have to do in the predicting part is predict that by the time I get to where I see that problem, will that problem still exist, or will it have gone away? An example would be a traffic light. Okay, you're driving down the road, you look up ahead, you see a traffic light, and it's red. But then you have to predict, will it still be red by the time I get there? Well, it depends on the speed you're traveling. Okay, so if you predict that it's going to be red, then you would decide, the D, that you should start slowing down. And then you would execute it by simply moving your foot from the gas to the brake. You are constantly searching for possible problems. Identifying those problems as to whether they're relevant or irrelevant, predicting what that problem might do, then decide what you're going to do about it, and then execute the decision. Now, let's put this in play like as we approach this intersection right here. In general, we're going to be looking in this area of the road, in this area of our picture. Things that we should notice is that we've got a no turn sign here. We've got a traffic light that's telling us green, go on through the intersection. We've got tracks in the road. So this traffic light is actually telling us to stop or go in relationship to a train. Then we've got a do not enter sign over here. We've got a pedestrian here, and we've got another one here. So I've identified these things in my path of travel. I'm going to predict that this pedestrian is going to stay right there on the curb. So I decide to keep my foot on the accelerator, and I'll drive on through the intersection. The other clues that tell me I should stay on the accelerator is we've got a green light telling me to go on through the intersection, that basically I have the right of way, therefore there must not be a train around. I also consider this pedestrian over here. They've got a nice smooth stride and appear to be clearly headed towards this point over here. As I drive on through this intersection, I find out that my prediction was correct. The pedestrian did indeed stay on the sidewalk. As I continue on down the street, I look up ahead as I continue searching, identifying possible problems, predicting what that possible problem might do, decide what I'm going to do about it, and then executing the decision. Now, as I approach this next intersection, I identify that we've got some pedestrians here, and I've got another pedestrian over here. Now, the thing that's so great about the SIPDE system is that it begins to put in the young driver's mind the concept of ranking threats. Pedestrians and animals, small children, they all rank very, very high on our list of possible problems, whereas an empty trash can is going to rank pretty low. So as we pass through intersections, pass through situations, and we identify certain things, we need to understand how serious is it. And I'm telling you, pedestrians rank very, very high. Now, the next thing that I see at this intersection is I also see a one-way sign. It's located up here. And this sign is telling me that this road goes like this. So as I pass through here, I have a choice. I could go down here to my left, or I could make the right turn after these pedestrians clear the way. Now, the other thing to show how you rank is imagine if there was a car over here coming towards me, okay? At that point, I would probably want to really hesitate, in other words, slow down dramatically, back here, so that this car comes through, then the pedestrians are going to cross, then it's clear for me to go on through. And that's really how we manage risk and manage our decisions. We make sure the high-risk potential in this situation, the pedestrians have moved out of the way, the car coming towards me is cleared, now it's a wide open street. So really the situation becomes very, very simple. So I'll pass on through this, and hopefully the pedestrians are going to clear the way. Now that the pedestrians have passed, I want to apply SIPDE to a different environment other than this urban environment we've been looking at. In an urban environment, you're going to need to look up the road about 200 feet most of the time if you're traveling somewhere between 40 and 50 miles per hour. If you're traveling 50, it's going to get closer to 300 feet. Okay? But if we're out in a rural area, then we're going to look up the road close to 400 feet. And the beauty of a rural area is that it's wide open like that. So it's going to allow you to look up the road 400 feet. And your need to look to the left and to the right, worrying about pedestrians or cross streets, practically disappears. So I always like to show this concept to students so that when we're trying to manage risk, as our speed increases, we need to look further and further up the road so that we can quickly respond to what we've searched for, identified, predicted, and decided might be a problem. And this is how you use SIPDE in a rural area. And then we've also looked at how you use it in an urban environment. So realize as the speed gets faster, look up the road further. If the speed is slower, then we're going to reduce our search back to around 200 feet in front of our car. And this is how you use SIPDE to your benefit.